Hello, how are we this evening? I see Tony, Mr. Howell, you are in. How you doing, buddy? Are you well? Thank you once again for your awesome mini swap. For those who haven't seen it, me and Tony are in the mini swap for Blackjack Legacy group, where basically you get a whole bunch of people all put your names into a hat, and then you get paired up, and you then get paired up, so you get drawn again with each other. Then a theme gets sort of randomly assigned via the voting. Ours was Plague this time, and you make a mini based on that theme. And this is what I received from Tony today. How friggin' awesome is this? Sorry, the lighting a bit there. Sisters of Battle in some festering horrible pit of a sewer, fighting a bloat bug thing, whatever it is, and there's nice cool toxic goo and everything. He made the nuts and bolts. He made them. It's madness. I'm so chuffed with this, Tony, and like I said, you and me are on kind of similar wavelength. We're both knocking on the same door with what we're doing. So I really hope you like my efforts, and hopefully I'll have them with you, I don't know, somewhere in the next I reckon week and a half, hopefully. That's fingers crossed. I couldn't believe it got there so soon. You told me you were sending it yesterday, didn't you? And then it arrived this morning. It's ridiculous. Right, so tonight I was going to do some Dead Zone terrain bits. Some of the tile scene stuff. I don't know if you've ever seen Dead Zone. Is made up of, you play the game in 3-inch cubes, so all of the scenery is made up of this very cool stuff that you can build via these connectors that go into these bits here, and you can build it in all sorts of cool ways, and you've got all sorts of different types of panels and stuff like that. I've only got the base set from the original first edition starter set, but since then there's been loads more types that have been created, like fortifications and landing pads and ruin sections and like refinery industrial stuff and loads of cool stuff that I'd like to get quite a bit more of, because I think it's a really, really cool system, and I think I could do a lot with it, you know, and try and make it quite multi-purpose, so it works for Dead Zone, works for like Necromunda, or just your sort of general sci-fi, and then hopefully works with maybe Star Wars Legion. I was thinking of trying and make it work with that as well. Not sure quite necessarily on the aesthetic front how well it will do there, but yeah, Tony, I'm sure that I'll love it, buddy. No rush. Yep, posted it yesterday, and really cool it was so fast. Yeah, especially nowadays, you know, you don't necessarily expect fast shipping on anything nowadays. Can you hear me all right? I take it you can. You're responding to me, but is it sound level okay? So yes, as I was saying, I was going to paint that, but then I decided I wanted to think about it a bit more, because I'm thinking about magnetising that scenery and making it a bit more multi-purpose. So I thought, well, instead I'm going to paint a Burrows and Badgers mini, because I went through a stage of painting a lot of Burrows and Badgers mini, all these ones you can see here in front of me. If you want a closer look at any, just say. And I've made some scenery for them now, as you can see, some nice buildings that I'm very pleased with. There's a ding out of that one. And yeah, I thought I've got some new ones from the last Kickstarter that I haven't primed yet, but I've still got 2 from my previous ones that I have primed. So I thought I'd knock a bit of them out. I haven't got my paints ready yet, or even really thought that much. I've got these 2 Stoked Weasel fellas. I don't so much like this mini. This one's not quite as nice, but they came in a set of 3. These 3 fellas here. And neither of these two, to be honest, I'm not massive fans of these two minis. They are nice, but this one I really particularly do like. It's got a really, really menacing expression. I quite like his pose. His stance is really nice, you know, sort of ready to go kind of thing. Nice flowing material. Just, yeah, it's just a really, really nice. It feels a little bit like this. This is probably my favourite of the Burrows and Badgers mini. Is this squirrel? And again, it goes down to that pose. I really like that real threatening. You know, I'm ready to put this arrow straight into somebody. You know, and I just love this mini. It blew my mind when I first saw it. And yeah, this guy, he's kind of got that similar sort of stance. So I think I'll paint him tonight. That shrew berserker there, awesome little dude. He may be little, but he really wants to have a go, and he's willing to take on a beaver. Sorry, he's more than willing to have a crack at him. Who we got in? Tony Howe, is the tower individual stonework blocks? Yes, all of. I forgot they were on there. Yeah, all of these are made out of individually cut and then laid bricks made out of blue UPVC. No, not UPVC. Out of blue insulation foam. So essentially, inside here is a Nescafe Zero tin, like that. And then this is EPVC, which is like a very thick. It's a very odd material. It's expanded PVC, but it's not expanded in a very foam sense. It's still very, very dense. You can actually just about cut it on a hot wire foam table, and it actually cuts surprisingly nice, better than I expected it would. You know, you'll snap a cable, a wire or two. But yeah, I made this for my. This is my Knight's Castle / Folly for the one I got in the last Kickstarter, which is this little errant knight mouse. It's a bit hard to see him in any decent amount of base metal, but I thought a little fella like him deserved a nice, large, sizable abode. And then this is kind of this was more of a proof of concept, really. I wanted to, in my mind, Burrows and Badgers should have a very Hobbit-like feel to the terrain. Sarissa Precision, who do laser cut MDF terrain, they make lots of really, really cool stuff. I love what they've done. I've got so much of it for my Wild West game. Really cool stuff, but it's all above ground, and it's pretty middle of the road fantasy. There's nothing particularly about it that stands out to me for Burrows and Badgers. It's nice, it's really cool, but yeah, I wanted that kind of Hobbit-esque look. You know, I wanted them to look like dwellings that were underground. So although this, yes, it looks like he probably hasn't got a tiny house. He's got a very tiny house, and there's not much to his house. I look at it more as it's the tip of the iceberg. So there's far more underneath here, you know, and this is just the top half. So yeah, that's essentially the same brickwork as the castle. Just use some matchsticks and various things like coffee stirrers and stuff for the woodwork. And then on the inside, it's there's a small amount of structure like buttresses, and then I use foil, a tin foil, which I put in between the buttresses just to give it the shape I generally want. And then I use basically papier-mâché kind of technique, but with tissue, and loads of PVA. You know, it takes like 24 to 36 hours before it's really truly dry. It really really needs a while to cure, but it is same on here. As you can hear, it's solid as a rock. And even this one, I didn't even do the buttresses in it. I really just basically balled up a bit of foil. I got some lava rocks, which are for like barbecues. I'd just placed them in there, hot glued them in there, and just built stuff around it. And then I've just used various bits from various scenic companies just to, trailing vines and stuff. There's a few bits where the PVA for some reason hasn't sort of like cured properly, and I don't really know why. So just some white patches that I could just slap a bit of wash and a bit of paint on there, and they'll clear up just fine. Both of these were kind of proof of concepts. This not so much this one, but this one very much was. But for a proof of concept, I'm very happy with it. It turned out exactly as I wanted it to. I absolutely love it. Different Gear TV evening, very nice. Thanks for coming in. Bobby Clark, good evening. Hi, how you doing? Thank you very much, Tony. That's very kind of you to say. That's a beautiful piece of work. You scratch? It's Tony Howell. It's fabulous, and as a fellow scratch build nerd, I'm geeking out. Thank you. I presume, obviously, yes. I liked your, for the thing I was showing a minute ago. I liked your process pictures that you put up. I was, like I said, I'm blown away by the fact you made the nuts and bolts. Is that particularly hard? I feel like I know what I'm like. I'm not. I could be all thumbs at the best of times. So I can't imagine I would necessarily go too well with that. Bobby Clark, I like the scenery. Looks good. Thank you very much, mate. Much appreciated. Well, I really probably should paint something. But anyway, how are we doing, gents? What are we? How's the world treating us? Are you guys working on anything? Are you painting anything now? While I am, or are you working on any big projects? A quick bit. So I've got to decide on a colour scheme for this young man. Everywhere I've seen, like I said, these three came in a set, and a lot of people paint them up the same. A lot of people I've seen in general, they'll paint their sort of band, or whatever you call them. They'll paint them up as a themed group. I don't like that idea so much. I like the fact of them being individual, being a bit of their own. So I'm not going to go with a sort of burgundy schmuck that this fella's got. So I need something with a bit more. But I do like, in as much as I like it to be very muted, very real natural colours. And then I use things like flowers and little bits of scatter on the bases just to give little pops of colour, because then that's where I think it's nicer. Like my Fox Rogue, as he's stalking in the long grass, his colours, outside of himself, even he is quite a muted colour, but he's just very dark greens and khaki kind of colour. In fact, the rabbit is about the only one who's really I went a little bit more brighter with, but even then nothing too crazy. Tony Howard, took a few practice runs to cast them, but once I got the hang of it was dreamy. Oh, you cast them? Oh, I see. I didn't notice that. I thought you'd almost have individually like you'd got a circle of plastic card and then like trimmed the angular edges to them. Oh, I didn't think about that. You might have cast them. What did you cast them in or with? I'm intrigued. Casting is something I really need to do. Really need to give it a try. Because it's so useful for so many things. Such as things like that. Are you working on your dead? Is that for the Black Deck Legacy contest, Tony? You're working on your Dead Zone stuff, yeah? What army or group are you doing? Colour do I want to do this guy? We'll go. Green. don't forget a green vibe off him. I might go like a sort of black, like blacks and grey. Like a cool black cloak might look good. Yeah, that's what I'll do. I'll start with that. Yeah. Right. Halfway, Bobby Clark, halfway through making some industrial bases and then casting some moulds for them myself. Right, so Bobby, how do you... Green Stuff World Silicon Rivet Cast Pack. Tony Howell. Green Stuff World Silicon Rivet Cast Pack. Use the acrylic resin, which is easy to mix and use. Is that the same... Is that like a UV resin, like you used for the goo on my thing, or is it just it's just a 2-part cures itself resin? And then Bobby Clark, yeah, halfway through making some industrial bases and casting them for moulds for them myself. So what, Bobby? How do you go about casting? Yeah, it's something I really have given. I've watched so many videos on people doing casting, and there's nothing. It's not exactly rocket science. It's not, once you get the understanding of, some of the things you have to do. Tony Howell. Yep, Dead Zone is for the challenge. I'm not too fussed about the prize. No, me neither. I mean, as much as I would like a 25 quid prize off for Mantic Store, that would be very nice, because I want to get the 2nd edition starter set, or just more terrain and just a set of the dice. I don't really need, although I haven't got any Forge Fathers, and I would quite like a set of the Forge Fathers. What band are you using? Are you working on, Tony? I don't know what I meant to do. Fool! Where is it? Where's my painting handle gone? What have I done with it? Oh, there it is. Will he fit? He will. No, he won't. Bobby Clark, your industrial bases. What are they going to be going on to? Yeah, I like the idea of this guy having a nice, sleek, long black cloak. But I'll highlight it up to sort of quite an aggressively darker grey. Must admit, I do like highlighting black. I don't know why, I always have done. Some people say it's like, oh, it's easy, it's a cheat. I don't necessarily think it is always that easy. Bobby Clark, I create the bases, mount 5 of them on foam card base, create foam card wall, seal with hot ground glue, yeah. Pour in silicon, leave it for 12 hours, and pour in a 2-part resin to cast them. Awesome. Have you been doing that a lot, Bobby, for a lot of things? I imagine bases is quite a good place to start getting the hang of casting, because if you make them right, you won't have too many undercuts and stuff like that. Oh, Necromunda commissions. Oh, you do commission work. Cool. Feel free to put a link up to your website for all the thousands of viewers. Every little helps. Tony Howell, it's water and resin powder. 2-part, and it air dries pretty quickly. The silicone molds are really well sculpted and really easy to release. I'm working on a Rebs Strikefoot. Rebs, oh cool. Yeah, I've got the 1st edition Rebs. I think they changed the set for the Rebs a little bit. but it's still, you know, the crux of it's still the same. Just gonna move this light. I haven't got enough light. Yeah. This is better. So do you, Bobby, do you do, so obviously for future Necromunda commissions, is that commissions that are kind of already been signed up for from people, or like requested, or do you just do a lot of Necromunda commissions that you know to have a whole load of bases ready to go? I started about Bobby Clark. I started about 6 months ago, back with bases. Practice doing the molds on single bases, so you get the method nailed. Saves me a lot of time when I'm painting armies. Yeah, I'll bet it does. Yeah, I'll bet it does. I suppose one of the good things is you can paint all the bases up ahead of time, and you know, just obviously attach whatever minis have been requested. Good for you for getting into commission painting, though. It's, there's a lot of pressure on that. My stuff only has to look as good as I care about, you know. Bobby Clark, my commissions are planned 12 months ahead, as I've got a couple of Necromunda commissions booked. I'm just planning ahead for them. Tony Howell, that's excellent stuff at Bobby Clark. Yeah, absolutely it is. 12 months ahead. Wow. That's quite impressive, sir. That's not quite impressive. It's very impressive. I'd love to see your work. So yeah, post up, you know, if you've got a link to like your website or Instagram or however you hawk your wares. I'd like to see. Different Gear TV. Is that a Cotman brush? What do you think? I ordered 2 of those. Yeah, it is a Cotman. Yes, I almost always use Cotman, not for any particular reason. I'm not one of these people who sort of swears by a brand of brushes. It's just that I often buy them in a local Tyndall's, which is an art supply store near me. It's one that's almost always in any art supply store. It's just when I pick up, you know, they don't cost too much. You know, they're perfectly reasonable, and they tend to be perfectly good condition. You know, I've had the odd one that's gone south quicker than I would have liked, but you know, I'm one of these people also that I couldn't really honestly ever tell you how long a paintbrush has lasted me, because the amount of times I'd just be like, I'll be walking through the town where it is, and I'll see that shop, and I might go in just to have a look, and I think, oh, I'll pick up a couple of brushes while I'm here, you know. So I think I've probably got brushes that I've had for ages, and brushes that I've had for months, and they get used completely randomly as to which one, you know. But yeah, I like them just fine, you know. I tend to use 2, 1, and 0. Different Gear TV. I'm a bit slow on the hobby tonight. I have some Walking Dead out, but the last few nights I just end up looking at them. I know exactly what you mean. Yeah, it's I did that. I was really in the mood to paint some Mythic Battles the other day, and I came up with every intention to do so, and I chucked Netflix up on the screen, and the next thing I know, 40 minutes had gone past, and I had no urge anymore to paint anything, and I just enjoyed a show and chilled out. But yeah, sometimes, as much as it's a hobby, sometimes it's a chore. Is it part of his cloak? Oh no, I see. Yeah. Ices. I do want to get a better camera, because even though this camera is stupidly close, as you can see, it's only about 6 inches from the Mini. It's still got this massive amount of space here, so I want to get something. It's a fixed webcam, so it's not really meant for this sort of thing, but I will get something at some point that can zoom in a little bit better. So what is cloak? I think I've got the camera angle a little better than I had it last week. Tony, how that happens. Sometimes you just zombie out and find that you're enjoying the zone out time. Yep, absolutely. And if you're going to zombie out, as Tony puts it, you might as well do it in front of some Walking Dead minis. Right. Oh no, that's cloak as well. Damn it. I really do love these Burrows and Badgers minis. I think they're just... I've always painted to a point, but I've certainly got in and out of the hobby over the years. Never kind of left it, but certainly not thought about it for a considerable length of time. And as much as I would look at like a lot of the board game collection I've got, that's very miniature heavy, I'd look at them and think, that'd be really cool if I painted all that up. I often wouldn't find the enthusiasm to do so. And then at the UK Games Expo, I came across, I think I'd seen the Burrows and Badgers stuff before, but not seen it up close and, with my own eyes. And then I saw it and met Michael and Joe, who run Oathsworn Miniatures. So they were such a sweet couple. And just fell in love with the miniatures right there and then. And I bought, basically, I think I bought everything that's there. I must have done. I don't think I bought anything. No, I think I did buy everything that's there in one UK Games Expo. Yeah, and just loved it. This, as I say, they've done a bunch of Kickstarters, and they just recently did one, and those miniatures got delivered and gone live. But this is one of my absolute favourites. This is when I was making up army list for warbands. I really wanted the large raptor, as it was on the list, but they didn't really have one. And I had some stuff that I was going to use from Mice and Mystics game Tailfeathers. And then in the Kickstarter, this was in it. And I was like, well, that's a done deal. But look at that. Just look at the expression on that. I mean, look how friggin' awesome. The menacing look as that raptor's just sweeping across the battlefield, looking for a mouse. Just love it so much. Even so much cooler a model than I had expected it might be. Focusing in. There we go. Different Gear TV. Tony. To be honest, I don't mind. I still enjoy putting them on the table and having a look. Still hobby in my eyes. Absolutely. Absolutely. As long as you're getting something out of it, that's all that matters. Right, so I think I'll do him quite dark fur. Bomb. What do you guys all have a range of paints that you prefer? Like, I'm kind of a Vallejo guy, but only so much. I like the very natural neutral tones that they do in the model colour range. But I do very much like the Games Workshop contrast paints now. I really think they're just fabulous. Do you guys have a preference? I really should get around to playing this game at some point. Michael Lovejoy from Oatsworn, he released a set of solo rules for the game, so I really should give that a try. I had the misfortune of a movie trailer leading me astray today. I don't know if you've heard of the book series Artemis Fowl, or at least the series of the character Artemis Fowl. I don't know what they're specifically called. Bobby Clark. I run Red Eagle Studio. Easiest to find me on Instagram. I'm mostly a Citadel and Army painter man. I've been playing with Pro Acryl paints recently. I like them. I'm trying to think if I know what the Pro Acryl ones look like. I'm trying to think if they're the ones. Do they have like a white label, but then like splashes of coloured paint on like one sort of side of the label? I think I've seen other people recommending them on like Beasts of War and stuff. Go back to Artemis Fowl. So yeah, I saw the trailer for Artemis Fowl, and I showed it to my son, who's 6. I was like, "How cool! Look how cool this movie looks! It looks absolutely awesome." You know, it's like all sort of weird, like sci-fi mixed in with fantasy, but like sort of fairies and goblins, sort of real classic sort of fantasy, fairy tale fantasy, and it's this cool kid in a black suit and his shades, and so he's like some sort of Men in Black, James Bond, Alex Rider, bundle of kid awesomeness. And they were like, oh, that looks really cool. And obviously, because it was supposed to obviously have a cinema release, but because of all this COVID thing, it wasn't going to get a cinema release in the end, so they just put it straight to Disney Plus. And it came out today, and I said to my son, I was like, oh, that Artemis Fowl's on. Should we watch it? So we sat down to watch it today. Oh, wow. That was a real letdown of a movie. It was absolutely shocking. It was real bad. It was just, model colour, different gear TV. I only have model colour black. It's really nice though. I have a few Vallejo game colours which seem good too, and some Army Painter and Citadel. I think for the future I'll try and avoid Citadel paints. Any particular reason? There was a time where I would have quite happily said yes, avoid them. I don't know if that's quite so much the case now. Certainly, obviously not because of the contrast. As I've said, I'm a big fan of contrast, but that's a very specific sort of paint. I used to, as a sort of speed painting thing, I used to do washes over white to do pretty much exactly what contrast paints do. Your description of them is correct, done by the guys who run Creature Caster, I believe. They're great though, through the airbrush as well as brush painting. Well, coincidence would have it, I went and pressed buy on an airbrush today. Nothing. It wasn't a very expensive one. Just I think a good one to start out and give it a try. I've wanted one for a long time, and I want to do a lot more. I want to do a lot of terrain videos for this, so it's very handy for terrain. And also I was getting really sick of the price of primers, even though I really like the Citadel contrast primers, Wraithbone and Greyseer. They give a really beautiful matte finish. Having said that, this is Halford's primer, and it does a really good job too. It's I was getting so sick of not being able to get primers, so I thought that's one very good thing for an airbrush as well. Bobby Clark, your description of them. Oh no, sorry. Different Gear TV. The Citadels are drying out. Vallejo is more available in Spain. Well, yes. Vallejo is Spanish, is it not? Is it Spanish or is it Italian? I think it's Spanish. So yeah, that would make sense. But that's good. And you dislike the Citadel pots. I don't. Yeah, they're not as bad as they used to be. That's for damn sure. The trouble is, I think GW would quite happily change to dropper bottles, but there's two reasons I don't think they will. One is that they stand out in that they look, you know, a Citadel paint when you see it, whereas obviously from a distance, Vallejo, Army Painter, P3 or whatever, they're all just dropper bottles, so they don't look that different. And obviously GW have paint racks around the world filled with all their paint pots, which, were they to end and swap to droppers, all those paint racks would need replacing, which would really justifiably have to obviously be at GW's cost. So yeah, I just don't think they'll ever do it, as much as, you know, and I think they probably know that people swap them over themselves, so they don't need to bother their arse about it, basically. Bobby Clark, I still use my 20 quid airbrush for most of my work. So when you say you use it for most of your work, do you mean like priming and sort of basic base layers, or with that one can you get some pretty good details on it? Sorry, just going to respond to something. Yeah, I mean, I've bought one that I think I'll be able to do okay with. You know, I'll do all right with it. I won't be able to, you know, I don't think I'm going to be a particularly great airbrusher. I don't think it's something that's going to come particularly naturally to me. But it's definitely going to make, you know, life so much easier for so many things. Have you got any Bobby Clark priming, base coats, varnish? Though I can get a couple of highlight stages in with it too. I saved my flash one for the really small fine detail stuff. Cool. You got any particular advice? Any terrible mistakes that people consistently make? So I'm not going to be doing anything too fancy with it straight off the bat. That's a pain in the butt. Doesn't turn so much into a dropper bottle when it does that to you. Going to do is whatever you call his shirt bit. I'm going to do that in a nice grey. I'm essentially painting grey onto grey right now, but more just a case of filling back in the gaps where my black cloak work went over. Bring up the details of that with a wash, I think. He's not got a huge amount on him, to be fair. Just some fleshy bits and some woody bits and a few bits of leather. For the most part, it's pretty simple mini. Where's the base? Flesh. Where have I put it? Have a compressor with a tank on it? Yes, I have. Doesn't overheat then. Use flow improver. I have bought Vallejo flow improver as well as nozzle cleaner. Use an old toothbrush for cleaning the nozzle. Cool, no problem. Yeah, I made sure. I consistently seen people saying have a tank with so have a compressor that has a combined tank in it. Obviously, have a air regulator on it and a moisture trap, which is luckily is most of them. Steve Murfitt, Slayer. How are you, buddy? You well? Got somebody after your own heart. You got who is it? Is it Different Gear TV? He's working on his Walking Dead. I know you, sir, are a fan of your Walking Dead as well. I'd like to get another game of that in, Steve, at some point when all this nonsense is over. Tony Howell. I'm still new to airbrushing, but I find that a light touch with airflow and paint feed are very helpful in preventing that horrible spider webbing with paint. Yeah, I imagine there is many times I'm going to apply paint to a model and shortly followed by me going shit as I cock it right up, because I know I'm so ham-fisted so often. You know, as much as I love painting, I know I'm technically probably not what's the word I'm looking for? Dexteritarily ideal for it. How's the world treating you then, Steve? I see Paul came over and sat in the rain on your back patio and no doubt had a beer with you. I must admit I've considered doing that a few times myself. As much as Zoom chats and stuff are nice, it's not quite the same as without actually seeing somebody face to face. Different Gear TV. One thing I learnt was to always test with water before use, just to make sure it's right. Yes, that was one of the... Are you zooming with everybody at the moment, are you? Say hello from me. One thing I learned was always test with water before use, just to make sure it's working properly. Yes, one of the videos I watched on it said to do exactly that, because you get all your paint in and mixed up, and then suddenly you realise, oh, something's bloody clogged. I watched some good videos as well on clearing it and cleaning it properly. Stephen Hewitt, oi oi! Hello buddy, how we doing? All the lads in tonight. Different Gear TV. A couple of times I've put paint in first and then realised it was clogged. Yeah, that must be... I have absolutely no doubt I am going to love having an airbrush, but equally be extremely infuriated by said airbrush as well. I know what I'm like. I know I'm going to have several times where it's going to annoy the hell out of me, but it's one of those things. When it works and it does exactly what I wanted it to do, I'm going to be so damned happy with it. How are we doing, Mr. Hewitt? Are you well? Are you sat down in front of your nice sparkling new PC? What have we got? Am I doing alright keeping it all on the camera? Yeah, not doing too bad. Something I'm still getting the hang of. Something in the eye. Stephen here, all good mate, just chilling mate. Love the tower, mate, looks sick. Looks sick. Steve, you're in your 30s, stop talking like a bloody teenager. Or if that's even how teenagers talk anymore. Bobby Clark, sorry, Stephen here, I'll be when Oscar goes to bed. Yes, I'm sure you will be. Bobby Clark, I find using gun oil is great for lubing it up. Breaks down the paint if it clogs too. Huh. Like as in when you say gun oil, you mean literally like for guns, I take it. Like shotguns and so forth. I saw again the same video I watched that said about cleaning it stuff, said about taking the needle out, and I forget what it's called, but it's the bit that stops paint coming back into the mechanism essentially. That bit can often end up with like bits on it, and it can get stuff in and around it, which can then end up in your sort of flow at any random point the next time. And he said about when he takes the needle out, he oils, I think it was that and the needle, but it was with airbrush oil, I believe, if I remember rightly. I've no doubt I'm going to go. It was I don't know if you've seen him. He's a YouTuber, Miniac. Tony Howell. I use some cheap £1 for 4 ceramic egg cups, one for mixing, one thinning paint, and one for cleaner, and 2 backups. That sounds like a good idea. Yeah. Different Gear TV. I bought an ultrasonic cleaner off Amazon for the airbrush. I think it was 25 quid, but worth it. Yeah, I know. I've seen of people using ultrasonic cleaners. I mean, do they really work? Are they really that good? Is there anything else you can use them for? Because I wouldn't mind buying one, but I want to kind of get a decent use out of it. For what sort of things can you put in an airbrush, in an ultrasonic cleaner? Can I bathe the kids in it? Be a little bit easier, you know. It's got a really nice expression on this Mini. Michael Lovejoy, who designer of the game and owner of Oathsworn Miniatures, and also sculptor of the miniatures. With I don't know if Jo, his wife, I don't know if she sculpts or anything or not, but I know she does like a lot of terrain that they make for stuff. I know Michael obviously does most of it. He does really good expressive faces on his Burrows and Badgers minis. There's loads of character in them. Every time I look at them, that's what I'm, always taken aback by how much character is in the faces. Real nice crisp detail as well. It's quite nice working with metal again as well. I do like plastic. It's by far my preference, but every now and then it is nice to have that little hefty weight. The ironic thing is that his bigger ones he does in resin, like so. These are all resin, and yeah, this Kingfisher weighs more than this Badger. So it's quite odd when you picking them up and moving them. Bobby Clark, yeah, it works very well. You can twizzle the needle and it pushes out any of the paint particles. Awesome. Tony Howe, ultrasonic cleaners are fabulous for stripping plastic minis off paint. Huh. Well, I didn't know that. What? What? Because obviously they're in a liquid when they're inside it. What's the liquid they're in, Tony? What fluid do you bathe everything in when it's doing it? Stephen here, yeah, their class models look lovely with a nice paint job on them. Well, I'm sure they would look lovely with a nice paint job on them, but they'll just have to have my paint job on them, I'm afraid. Different Gear TV. I also use it to clean my glasses. I work as a decorator, so when I get home from work, I put my glasses on to get all the specks off the paint. Yeah, I bet they're like dappled, I bet. Well, I don't wear glasses, so that's no need for me, but good to know though. Lighter brown. Such a shame. Thank you, Stephen. Stephen in the chat is a very good friend of mine. Lives just down the road, and he was one of my compatriots to Aircon this year, which is a board gaming convention run by a friend of mine called Mark, Mr. Mark Cook. Giant of a man he is. So yeah, it's a board game convention up in Harrogate, and it's just such a great convention. Tony, how you can use Dettol, so that works a treat. Strips and clean in an hour. Wow, really? Well, that is a game changer, because using Dettol, as much as it works, it's a real pain to get it off. Because if you don't, you end up with. Have you ever tried to get Dettol off? Well, you end up with that real. It turns almost like glue. It's horrible. Yeah, Stephen Stewart there saying is the best yet. I mean, it was such an amazing weekend. Absolutely fab. Just played so many great games with so many good people. Just loved every second of it. And I sincerely hope we shall be returning next year. Sincerely hope so. But who knows? Who knows at this point? What got you into Burrows and Badgers, and how long have you been a hobbyist? I'm a virgin to your stream. Well, pleased to pop your cherry, Bobby. Jake Ward, hello. Stephen here, that's a class tip. Yeah, that is a class tip, Tony. Thank you very much. Bobby, so right, okay, I'll answer the first bit first. Burrows and Badgers. I think I'd seen it. I watch a lot of Beasts of War, and Ben, who's one of the hosts on like the Weekender, very nice guy. He was banging on about it all the time, and still is, to be fair. He seemed to be certainly one of the champions of the game. He really liked the aesthetic of the minis and stuff like that, and it caught my attention when he was talking about it. And yeah, I was looking at it thinking, oh yeah, that looks pretty cool. Didn't think too much of it. Certainly didn't particularly think about buying any, I don't think. I might have had a look at the website once. Then when I was at UK Games Expo, I was just having a wander. I volunteer at the UK Games Expo, so I'm there been to the last 4, 5, I think. Yeah, so I was just having a wander on one of the moments that I wasn't working and saw their stand. So I was went and had a good look. Had a real good butchers, and they had a couple of nice displays. Nothing crazy, but just a few nice setups to display them in nicely. And I got to have a little bit of a closer look, and I just fell so instantly in love with them. I was like, I think I'm just going to get some of these to paint them, because they just look like a fun thing to paint. And I was even sort of half considering something on like a diorama kind of front with them. So yeah, I bought I think I bought like 3 or 4, or like he does like a little starter warband set, I think, which I might have bought one of them, and then probably went back to the hotel, was having a butcher's at them. I think, oh no, these are really cool, and then I'm probably gone on the website looking at them even more, thinking, I'm well and truly down the, and no pun intended, rabbit hole. Next day I went back and bought some more. Even on the Sunday I went back and bought some more. So I ended up with, going from none to all of this lot in one convention. Which, trust me, this is more than enough here for 2 warbands. Which is probably half of why I bought as many as I did, to be honest. But I was just really enjoying them and looking at them. And yeah, and then they really reignited my passion in painting, almost solely down to them. I started painting a few, and I was just so enamoured painting them. I just really found the love of it all again. And that was only probably 2 or 3 years ago. Tony Howe, got to go. And the other half wants to catch up a bit. Catch up with the rest of the stream tomorrow. Take care, my man. All the best, buddy. Thank you very much for coming in. Everybody's saying goodbye to Tony. Thank you very much. The ultrasonic buzzing noise is quite relaxing. Yeah, so how long have I been a hobbyist? Right, well, I'm 38, so there you go. And I consider myself to have been a gamer since I was 9 years old, when one Christmas Mum and Dad, or Santa, one of the two, bought my brother and I, or maybe me, I'm not specifically sure, bought us Hero Quest. We'd always played board games. Mum had always been quite avid at playing board games with, especially me and my brother. Brother's a terrible loser, so he's not the greatest for games. And yeah, so yeah, I got a Hero Quest and fell very drastically in love with it. Really well and truly in love with it. And yeah, then not very long after, found Games Workshop. I live not far from Cambridge, which was my local Games Workshop. And many moons ago, it used to be in this really weird, as you go down to the river, there's a bit called Quayside, and it used to be in this really odd spot that was sort of tucked away behind like some restaurants and stuff, that are bars in that area. And I still remember that day going in that Games Workshop so absolutely vividly. I remember as you walked in, it was a central door, 2 big windows either side. As you walked in, you kind of there was a table in front of you, slightly off to the left, table behind that, and then there was another table to your right. And I think there was a table essentially in each corner, and then there was a kind of almost an extended corner, like another box bit, and that's where the till was and a few other bits. And I remember on the first table in front of me, they were playing what I think at the time was probably Space Marine, which turned into Epic and so forth. And I remember walking up to the table and I was watching them play, and I was looking at these Titans, and they had the cool little card with the card buildings, that kind of look like crosses and stuff like that. And I just looked at them playing it, and all these little cool dudes on these bases, and I was like, wow, that looks so cool. And I watched them play it for quite a while, I think. And then I remember on the next table, they were playing what eventually got picked up by Fantasy Flight Games, but it was the Horus Heresy board games. They were playing that, and that was the old counter and chit version, with the Black Legion guy on the front blasting away and a real angry expression on his face. Again, remember it so vividly. And yeah, so that's it. I mean, I was hooked. I was so hooked at that point. And that was when they used to do these sets. This was before second edition Warhammer 40k came out with its, which was like the first of the big starter sets, which had a load of Space Marines, a load of Orcs and Gretchen, and it had a cardboard standee for an Orc Dreadnought. That came out just shortly afterwards. Well, it felt very shortly afterwards. And yeah, I think at that point Warhammer Fantasy Battles 4th edition had was just about to come out or hadn't quite come out, with the High Elves, with the Archers and the Spearmen and the Orcs. Who's got the Goblin Spearmen? Oh, Goblin Spearmen and Night Goblin Archers, yeah. And yeah, then so they had these sets. They had like skeleton set, and then they had like fantasy miniature set, and they had Space Marine, and they had loads in these boxes, like absolutely loads of stuff in them. And we had we must have bought a bunch of them. Eventually we got both of the starter sets when they came out, and I kind of just, that was it. We're off to the races then. It was all Games Workshop all the time. And just fell in love with it. And then a Quest, so different Gear TV. I was a Quest Partworks guy and Airfix models to begin with. Quest Partworks, I have no idea what that is. Is that like when you get the magazine every month and you get a bit of it, of whatever it is, whatever Quest was? Is that kind of thing? I tell you what, my brother, he wasn't so much the gamer, but he was more the Airfix modeler, whereas I preferred all the fantasy and stuff like that. Whereas my brother, he was much more into his like motorsport and military planes and stuff like that. Not he's remotely into it now, but yeah, that was more his sort of jam, was that sort of stuff. I'd done a few. I'd done some Airfix stuff like that, but nothing major. Whereas actually now I'd probably quite like to get into scale modelling, if I'm honest. I think I'd really like it. Yeah, so then some of my friends that have a great Stephen Hewitt, have a great evening, pal. Go to get the rascal to bed. Have a great stream, mate. Thank you, buddy. All the best. Give my love to Sophie. So yeah, then where was I? So yeah, Games Workshop for a good few years after that. Then I met my sort of current batch of friends when I was about 12, and they played Magic, and I didn't play Magic at the time. So they got me into Magic. And then that was the 90s like boom of collectible card games, and we played just about every bloody collectible card game going. I dread to think how many we played. So many that I could think back on. And we were all Games Workshop players. We played a lot of Warhammer Quest, Necromunda. They were probably our two favourite games. We tended to gravitate. There was a bunch of us that were 40k players more so, and then there was a few others. A few other guys were fantasy players more so. Bobby Clark, I was smiling just listening to you getting excited about how it began for you. I recall a mad manager called Dan who was running Cambridge GW for some 15 years ago or so. You know what? I'd probably recognise him. Me and my friends, some of which you might watch this like tomorrow or might even come in later. We've always joked about going into a Games Workshop and when you just get immediately pounced on and you're just like, oh, for the love of God, here we go. So, what armies you playing? You know, same questions every time. And we have a long-running joke that when anything's a bit odd, it's referred to as dragon's blood, just because when Games Workshop moved in Cambridge to one of the few sites it's been in over the years in Cambridge, it moved. It's the manager, I presume, at the time. He just wouldn't leave us alone, and at one point he came out with that he'd signed his contract in dragon's blood, and me and my friend both looked at each other like, right, okay. He couldn't read body language or tone of voice or anything. It was just like, all right, mate, okay, yeah, thanks very much, yeah, no, we're fine, we're just having a look, you know. They're still so aggressive when they, you know, you walk in now, you just say, real, as much as GW are starting to get get better at what they do, they're still very old school with their sales pitches and stuff like that, you know. And sadly, they're run by a lot of people who aren't necessarily brilliant at social interactions, and don't read body language and don't read tone of voice. Yeah, it's always fun going into a Games Workshop. I might chuck a bit of a wash. Yeah, I will chuck a bit of a wash on him, just to sort out the grey, the depths in the grey on his schmuck thing. So yeah, then we started going to things like Salute down at Excel in London, and yeah, we go down to there, and then I remember one year we discovered it was the year War Machine got released by Privateer Press. So we got into that, played that quite a bit, probably not nearly as much as we should have. We were probably playing more of the CCGs a lot of the time. Mark Cook, I enjoyed my tour of the GW factory. It was neat and funny to hear the reason behind them changing the store names to the Warhammer shop. Yeah, it's more because they changed them because it's the way it's referred to. Well, certainly this is what I believe is the case. People that have been in the hobby in some way or form when they're younger or out on the street, as it were, refer to it as Warhammer, not Games Workshop. You know, oh yeah, I used to play Warhammer, and they kind of use it in a sort of general term across the thing, which isn't. It's not. That's certainly not how me and my mates were. We referred to it as Games Workshop or GW, and then would obviously discuss the game specifically, you know. Yeah, I certainly never used to hear people refer to it as Warhammer in the sort of general sense, but obviously it was the case because, as I believe, that is why they changed it. Um, Jake, my local my local is opposite to that. The manager asks if you need help, and if he says no, he leaves you be. Good. The one in Kings Lynn, it's not the case. And the one in Cambridge, actually, I think, from my memory serves me, my last time I went in, it was all right. It was actually a pretty normal interaction. But the Kings Lynn one was very odd interaction. Young lady that just wasn't listening to a word I was saying, because I was actually trying to get help. You know, I wanted there was a Warhammer Underworlds band. I wanted the Skaven, and I said, "Oh, have you got any more of these upstairs or in the back?" And she was, "Oh, I'm going to have a look," and she came back down with the Age of Sigmar box that had just the miniatures in it, none of the cards, obviously, for that I needed for Underworlds. And she said, "Oh, you know, I haven't got the Warhammer Underworlds one, but I've got this, and that's just as good." I went, "Well, no, it's not just as good." I said, "I only play Warhammer Underworlds, and obviously I want it for the cards as well." And she went, "Well, I mean, you could get the cards later." And how would I get the cards later? I mean, literally, what she asked me, I said, "How would I get the cards later without buying these models again?" And she went, "Ah, but yeah, but then you can paint them twice." I was like, "Wow, the interaction just stank of desperation." It was quite a shame, really. But sadly, I know they're sort of slightly urged to do that a bit, or certainly have been in the past. Bless her. Hello, Mark Cook, though. By the way, buddy, how are you doing? Mark Cook is the guy I was talking about earlier, who runs Aircon in Harrogate, one of the finest gaming conventions in all the land. Mark Cook. Yeah, it's because so much of the stuff is bought as gifts by parents, so when looking for the shop they ask where the Warhammer shop is. Right. And not knowing it's made by Games Workshop. Fair enough. Yeah, that's that does make a lot of sense. Yeah, I can imagine. And yeah, it is definitely bought as a gift a lot, you know. And that was certainly the business model for a long, probably still is for the most part. You know, mums and dads buying it for kids for Christmas and so forth. Jake Ward, a fellow giant has arrived. Yes, two men who duck for doors on a daily basis. He's coming on alright, this guy. He's coming on alright. Nice. Yeah, you can see him focus on him a little bit. Wrong focus. Right. Nice. It's a nice middle of this. I like it. So how, Bobby? How about you? How did you get into gaming and so forth? What led you down this dark and expensive path? Let's highlight up this cloak a bit. Oh, bless you. Yeah, Mark saying, all good, thanks. Sorry, can't stay long. Bad night of teething. He's Mark has a under 1 year old. I think he's about 10 months now, Grayson. Bad night of teething last night. Dropping off watching Space Force. Let me know what you thought of Space Force, Mark, after a discussion last night. Too much. Jake Ward, I'm currently tackling 8 tactical Space Marines. I'm regretting my idea of batch painting already. I thought you look like you were doing a good job of batch painting. Bobby Clark, I liked guns. My dad was in the army. Second editor for 40k was calling me. Yeah, I just love that statement. I like guns. Yeah, I mean, I toy with the idea of going back to Games Workshop all the time, but I'm not into big army-based games anymore. It took me quite a long time before I truly realised that. But I like skirmish-based. That's my jam now. Mark Cook, I hadn't twigged that it was a series. Not sure why. It was pretty okay. Some funny bits interspersed with lots of not so funny bits. Yeah, that's kind of, as I said, it is okay overall, but it wasn't nearly as good as I hoped. I didn't know you were an army brat, Mark. Or did I know that and I've now just admitted that I forgot? I swore I'd start using painting handles, but this is something quite alien to me because I've literally in what call it 18 years of painting miniatures to any level of reasonable. I never used a painting handle. I never used to stick them to corks or anything like that. I used to just hold them by the base, hold them by the mini, so careless essentially with it. But yeah, I got this one, the Citadel one, a little while ago because they're so cheap. I thought, well, I'll give it a try, see what I think of it. And it doesn't feel quite natural to me yet, but I do quite like it. I'm getting used to it. But I have ordered, or I will be ordering the Kickstarted Red Rose. Is it Red Rose? Red Rose Gaming? Yeah. Red Rose, yeah. Gaming ones with the interchangeable heads, so you can, which is good because I do, as a general rule, like to batch paint. And that's the one Andy uses on his streams. And it looks really comfortable. It looks nice the way he uses it because you can keep your hand there and you can spin it and turn it as you want, which you can't do with this. It's fixed, so you have to, which isn't, it's no big tragedy, but it'd be nice to just be able to move it nicely. And watching Andy use it, he looks very, very comfortable in the way he just manipulates it as and where he wants it all the time. Although I think it will take me a little bit of getting used to. I think I will like it in general. And it might help for me keeping it in the right place for you lot. I don't know if am I doing alright? Yeah, I'm doing okay at keeping it in the right place. I need to do like Andy's done, keeping it. I need to have it down here and have a little square, my target. Like keep it above at all times. Yeah, I like the cloak there. I've kept it not. I want it to stay black. I don't want to highlight it up so much that it essentially just turns into like a dark grey cloak. I want it to still appear to be black. What about you, Jake? What got you into gaming and so forth? And Best Gear TV, or Different Gear TV, sorry, if you're still here. Bobby Clark, I'm still painting with my models on corks. I'm so out of touch. Hey, mate, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Born in BMH Munster, Germany. Mark Cook, this is. My dad was 17th, 21st Lancers, tanks, yeah. They were famous for their motto, death or glory. Skull and crossbones was their cap badge. Well, I've definitely heard of the tank regiment who had that death or glory. I think I couldn't have ever told you that it was 17th and 21st Lancers, but that's cool. I did not know this. Learn something every day about you mates, don't you? Right. I'm not going to need to do a huge amount to this old boy, to be honest. For a lot of these Burrows and Badgers minis, I haven't tried to take them too far with any one thing. So, yeah, I was just saying, Different Gear TV. What got you into miniatures painting, gaming in general? What was your path in? That's too much. Jake Ward. I happened across a gaming group when I was around 12 or 13ish. I found out I was really good at painting them. Plus, I like Halo a lot. 40k kind of ticked that box. Yeah, a lot. I mean, a lot of people. It was like gaming adjacent and stuff like that. I've known a lot of people who got into 40k because they played like Dawn of War or Mark Cook. Right, I'm going to have to do one. Have fun, y'all. See you later, buddy. All the best. Yeah, they played a lot of the GW PC games that are out there, like Dawn of War and like Tau Fire Warrior and what was there? Total Wars. Chaos Gate was one of them as well, I think. Space Marine. There's loads, so many there's been now. I've never really been a fantasy player. I cannot get on with rank and file games. Just can't stand them. Jake Ward, see you, Mark. Plus, I'm a big sucker for the lore side as well. Yeah, I mean, that I think has probably been one of the major reasons GW have stayed right at the top. I mean, because even when GW have pissed you off, you still can't help but admire how kick-ass the story behind their games is. The Horus Heresy is a legitimately awesome sci-fi story. There's no, miniatures game aside, that is a badass story that should be told. To be honest, I wish it had been told actually very well. Fortunately, outside us lot playing miniatures gaming, it's actually never really been told that well. I mean, I know obviously. I'm talking about not the Black Library books. They're obviously told very well. Bobby Clark. Oh, sorry. Different Gear TV. It was redundancy about 6 years ago. A mate was getting into it. I got made redundant, had time, and got a bit of power from my hands, so I bought a GW box set. Wow. Awesome. That's cool. Yeah, I mean, I presume did you have any idea what it was before then? And your mate got into it? Was literally you just right place, right time, saw something and thought, well, that looks cool, and you had the money to hand. Bobby Clark, Chaos Gate, yeah, it was awesome. Those cultists exploded like ripe fruit when you hit them with the bolt rounds. Yeah, so true. Yeah, Chaos Gate was a really cool game. It was like kind of worked like the old XCOM games, gridded movement and facing, action points and turn-based game. It was a real good game. Essentially, it was 40k XCOM. It was very, very good. Alright, what do? Bring up those bolt heads. Probably do all the basing and everything on this fella tonight as well. What time is it? Nearly 10 o'clock. Certainly go for a bit longer. How do you know I'm not using a wet palette? Can you see it? Oh, you can. Yeah. I did used to use a wet palette, and I fully intend to get another one. I used to, I made one Tupperware box and stuff like that. And I'm going to via the Red Rose Gaming Kickstarter for the paint handles. I might treat myself to one of their nice fancy ones just because they look so nice. But yeah, I just kind of got out of using one. I do thin my paints. I use Vallejo thinner medium on them and stuff like that, and just sometimes just a splash of water. I am, as you can see, quite terrible for wasting paint, but I just don't. It doesn't bother me that much. But I do want to get back into using one. Different Gear TV. I always knew about it in my school days, but never really looked into it at the time, and never had the money either. You still don't have the money either, mate. Trust me. Nobody's ever got all the money they want for all the Games Workshop stuff they like. Jake Ward. I always managed to. I also managed to find my favourite 40k characters out of the books too. Inquisitor Eisenhorn. Plus, I caved. I bought the mini back in 2018. Yeah, I haven't. I've read a few of the Horus Heresy books. Obviously, I've often read a lot of the fluff in the codexes and stuff like that, so I know the stories pretty well. And I started reading the Horus Heresy books, and my mate who was in earlier, Stephen Murfitt, he was reading loads of them. He's my old housemate, and he was up to like 14 or 15 when I started reading them. And I said to him, I was like, are they anywhere near, the assault on Terra and, the actual showdown between the Emperor and Horus? And he was like, no, they're not even close to it. And I was like, oh, I just thought, I want the story to be told, rather than every bloody thing that happened in between the beginning and the end. It just, a lot of it, I started to, he'd got to a lot of the books. He was like, yeah, there's some real duds in there. Most of them, he said, are very good, but there's a few that are real shockers. And yeah, I just decided I couldn't be bothered in the end. Plus, I don't make a lot of time for reading anyway. I don't say that I don't have time for reading, because everybody has time for reading, and you just don't make time for it. And I absolutely don't make time for it. But yeah, I would. True, maybe even less money with the Corona. Yeah, exactly. He's done it all. So I must admit, actually, saying that the lore of Games Workshop is amazing, I would actually say that the Horus Heresy lore is great. I wasn't overly familiar with. I knew bits of lore for fantasy, and also I knew like the lore behind the Chaos Gods and stuff like that. But yeah, I certainly didn't know quite so much of that stuff. Yeah. I have very little knowledge of the current lore with Age of Sigmar. I heard a rough breakdown of some of the lore, but I didn't. I wasn't entirely sure I was actually being told the truth. But what I was being told sounded very cool. Highlight up this flesh a little bit. It's been knocked back with the wash. Ba-ba-bum. Do you wash that palette, or do you just leave it dry and go over the top? What I tend to do is just kind of work around bits, and then eventually I sort of peel it off, or I wash it off, or something like that. Sorry. Don't mean to suddenly go silent, I'm just focusing a little bit. It's not the easiest to just keep talking. Bobby Clark, I hit 40 last month. My brain seems incapable of storing lore in it like it used to. Yeah, I'm probably not too far off there. Yeah, I don't think I've learned any new lore for any length of time. I remember the old stories, basically. But what a kick-ass... I mean, the Horus Heresy, like I said before, it's just such a bloody good story. So awesome. It's just such a shame that there's never been... I mean, that piss-awful attempt at that Space Marine movie... that bloody Space Marine movie that had some really good voice actors in it, like Pertwee and stuff. God alive, it. I mean, it didn't even look nearly as good. It didn't even look nearly as good as the Dawn of War first trailer or intro FMV sequence. It looked awful. It was real crap. And the story that they did was pretty crap too. Different Gear TV. I see someone using Ziploc baggies as a palette. Yeah. I mean, it's so true. You can really any sort of plastic surface. Yeah, it'll do. What did I think I needed? Brown wash for his fur. Mate, Jake Ward, I want to see more Astartes. That was epic. I mean, how badass is that? I mean, the other guys in here, if you haven't seen it, the Astartes, go on YouTube and look up the show Astartes, and it's one fella on his own who's doing this Space Marine like sort of mini series. I don't know how you describe it. Of this made up chapter of his, and the CGI on it and the aesthetic of it is so damn good. He's not only is he obviously very talented at CGI, but his writing's really cool, because I mean the flow of it, and like I'm trying to think if anybody in it, in the short amount of it that's out there now, if anybody's even said a word in it, but I don't think anybody has. But it's such a cool little engaging story that's sort of playing out so far. You know, you really want to know what happens next, sort of thing. But yeah, the aesthetic of it's just unbelievable. It's just, you just see something like that, you know, and you just think it's some dude, you know, in his office at home or in a bloody laptop or whatever. Jake Ward, just amazing, yeah. Bobby Clark, Astartes gave me goosebumps. Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Different Gear TV as a joke video, but seemed to work. Jake Ward, obviously after Luke is done. Yes, yeah, yeah. Have a look at it when I'm finished. Yeah, it's just awesome. Just one of the coolest things. But yeah, so we'll say, like, you see somebody like that and you think, wow, you're just, you know, you're doing this on your own, off your own back, you know, amongst whatever else you do, whatever your job is. No doubt he's into the hobby, so he's probably painting bloody miniatures all the time as well, trying to get a game in or whatever. And you think, how are you not? I mean, maybe he does work in that world, you know, and he does do CGI for a living or whatever, but still, it's still bloody amazing. And one of the great things is, so far, Games Workshop have allowed him to continue doing it, which is nice. Which I'm very, very glad about. So a super tricky bit around the eyes to do then. Right, where am I at with this fella? I don't want to do too much more to him. I might highlight up his fur a little bit, but I quite like the dark, menacing bit of him. So you do a couple of eyeballs. That's my way of doing eyes. Much easier. You guys a closer look. So yeah, I mean, I'm quite happy with where his cloak is highlighted to. I don't want to take it much further because I do want it to still look essentially like it's a black cloak, not highlighted too much and it ends up looking like a dark grey cloak. Like I said, I might just highlight up some of this fur, you know, just to give it a little bit more tone. For a second. Right. Could also just put a bit of wash on the base just to break up the gravel stuff underneath it. Just a bit. Most of it will get covered via flux and static, but with bases I like to make sure there's loads of different tones and colours, because you know, unless you're looking at a manicured lawn, whenever you look at any real speck of the ground, you know, whether it be a bit of paving or tarmac or grass or footpath or field, you know, there's any number of shades and colours and tones in it, you know. I think, you know, gone are the days where you used to just paint the base of the base green and put a little bit of green flock on it, you know. Those days are long gone. And as you can see from these fellas, it is not something I subscribe to. I like bases with, you know, something about them. Especially in Burrows and Badgers, it benefits them so much to just to have that little extra bit about them. Just adds to their character. Yeah, I think really other than just a little bit on that fur, I'm really not sure I'm going to do anything more to him. I'm not sure. How are those, I take it it's Dark Angels you're working on, Jake, that I've been seeing in your pickies. Have you done any Death Guard Terminators yet, Jake? It's like Chelsea Flower Show Battlefield. Looks ace. Thank you, Bobby Clark. Yeah. Stuff like this is the Alan Titchmarsh show I could get behind. You know. Yeah, I think that's all I want. I don't really want much more on that fur than that, just to bring it up a bit. They're on the list, and Dark Angels indeed, from Jake. I do like Dark Angels. I mean, like I said, I like Marines in general. You know, I'd even do an Ultramarines army, as much as obviously a lot of people, you know, the Smurfs and all that, you know, a lot of people find it very dull because they're the mainstay. They still look cool. Just scored myself a Codex on eBay too. You didn't have it already? You seem to have painted a hell of a lot of Dark Angels for not having the Codex already. Good on you, man. You're getting through them, that's for sure. You seem to be working on all the live long day. Right. Let's see. Now, annoyingly, most of my basing material is tucked away a little bit behind my keyboard. So this might be a terrible idea, but we'll run with it. Where's the top of that gone? What's that? So I've got static glass here. Oh no, I've probably got most of what I need. Where are my tufts? Where's my tufts? Aha! There they are. Bobby Clark. I've been painting Ultramarines for 2 months. I love. Yeah, I tell you what. Like, no matter what anybody says about Space Marines, Primaris look badass. Full stop. They're just so goddamn awesome. Where is? I'll have to do. yeah, it's just those Primaris are just so friggin' cool. Bloody hell! I got the lid stuck on my super glue. That's alright. That one's not stuck. Right. Yeah, I mean, like, go back to the Primaris, like Space Marines didn't look badass and mean enough as it was. Then you go and put them in there, the posture and the stature of a Primaris, and they just look so amazingly badass. You know, I must admit, I've not seen a 40k army, a Marine army that's got Marines and Primaris in it. I'm wondering if I might find that a bit weird to look at. Like it looks like they're just like a slightly different, like it's like a different company's attempt at a Space Marine or something like that. You know, like they've mixed a miniature range or something like that. Just gonna put a few dabs of super glue here and there for a wee bit of floxing statics. Jake, I didn't, but I thought I'm better off painting what I can, as I had the Dark Vengeance set, and they all had their weapons, etc. I decided no need for colour. Yeah, well, that makes sense. Yeah, Jake Ward. Mine will be, but I'm cheating a bit. I'm using bases to balance the height, hopefully. Oh, okay, right. Because I mean, like Space Marines, they do still exist, don't they? It's not all just about Primaris now. You can still use old Space Marines. They are still a thing, aren't they? You know, I'm sure I'm understanding that correctly. Dab in a few bits here and there just to. All my boroughs and badges are mounted on pennies, except actually, sorry, the bigger bases. These are MDF bases for their sizes. But then, yeah, all these are they two? No, they're 1 pennies. No, 2p. 2p. Yeah. Looks all right. Yeah. Does this guy look like he'd have a little tuft of flowers anywhere? There with just a bit of grass tuft. Nice, it just breaks up the textures stuff, and what I have to do with these tufts, so they come in a bundle. They do have a sticky back bit to them. I like to just kind of split them in my fingers, and that helps to, so you don't always have identical sized tufts on every mini. You know, it's all, like I said, it's all about mixing it up and making it different wherever you can. You know. Not much glue on the bottom of that one, so I'll just give that tuft a wee bit of super glue in the bottom there. Bobby Clark, have you used a static flock applicator, the plug-in thing? I haven't bothered, wondered whether it was worth it or not. No, I haven't. I do want to. I think they are worth it, because, well, one, I'd use them to make my own tufts, like these. These are from Pico Scenics. Now, these, to be fair, aren't expensive. Or this whole sheet was £4, you know. And you know, I must have bought it well over a year ago. You know, the same with this one. This flower lot, it was £5 from the shop. And again, there's only so much of these ones I need. So like, but you can make your own ones, and you can make them in different shapes and stuff like that. What I would like to do is, and I've got all the bits for it, and I just need to get around to doing it, is build a static grass applicator. Not one of the box ones, but essentially I'll build it. It's one of the ones for doing things like this, doing stuff like the terrain, because then you get a really good effect. And I have used a friend's one. Yeah, I was suitably impressed. They do make a real world of difference. They're very good at what they do. A wee little bit of flowers on his base, even though he's a mean-looking weasel. We'll go with a wee bit of flowers for him, just so there's a bit of an ongoing theme throughout the minis. Right, well, I think I'm about done with this fella. Focus him in a bit so you guys can see him. Here is my crossbow wielding weasel. Amazing the difference a bit of static grass and a little bit of flock can make to a base, you know. Just love it. No, I'm really pleased with that. It's come out real nicely. I'm really pleased with the grey undergarment with the black cloak. Yeah, I'm really pleased with that. Oh, well. Second live stream done. Thank you very much for everybody who's been in the chat, having a natter with me. Much appreciated. About 2 hours in. I am going to be doing more videos. I want to do some interviews with some of my friends who are part of the more the board gaming world. As in they're in the industry. So I'd like to do some interviews with some of them, and also just some general videos on like making terrain and some of the ways I do things. So some of the techniques I've used over the years, you know, for what they're worth. So for everybody who's been in, I thank you. Thank you very much. Much appreciated. It's been Bobby Clark, it's been good. The girlfriend liked your bases, very pretty, she says. Well, thank you very much. It's not often that something with me and gets discussed as pretty, so I shall take that. That's very much appreciated. So, yeah, thank you very much, everybody, and I shall see you again soon.